Good morning, everybody. My guest, Josh, I want to do a little screen share. I came across something before I introduce who our guest is. Josh falls into the category of successful people. And this is what I think about successful people and never hating on successful people. Jealousy has no place in our heart. I'm not a believer in jealousy. I'm a believer in studying what successful people do, understand what they do, emulate them. You know, this goes back to culture, and we talk about our culture and participating in things that are going on at the market center, surrounding yourself with people who are doing this at a really high level. That's what this is. That's what today is all about. That's what Maureen Friends is all about, helping people spend time with people around the country who are doing this business at a high level. I had a big aha this week listening to, I'm on vacation, but I still listen to the Southwest Market Center's team meeting this week. And one of the things that was mentioned by one of the ALC members was, boy, we all think we're all so different, right? In different parts of Milwaukee or different parts of the country. The point is, we're really not. We're all doing the same business. We're all doing that, not on the same level maybe, but that doesn't matter. We're all doing the same activities to accomplish the same goals, right? So when we bring people on from other parts of the country, this is an opportunity to learn from successful people who are doing the same business, the same kind of business, the same way, just at a higher level. So I love that we have relationships. We've spent a lot of time around KW in the country and have strong relationships with different people in different cities. And our guest, Josh Weinberg, here on the screen, is from Chicago, Illinois. Josh runs a hot team down there. His partner is Tommy Choi. I think you guys have heard us talk about these guys. We're really tight with these guys. We work a lot together. We mastermind together. We travel together. We spend dinners when we go to events together. And we think there's great synergy between Milwaukee and Chicago. So I asked Josh because Josh is really running the team. He's the mastermind behind the motivation of what everybody does down there. And so I want to go back and have a little conversation, but I want Josh to tell us a little bit about his background. Josh, you came to KW about 7-ish years ago.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And what did your business look like before you came to KW?
Yeah. So first of all, good morning, everybody. Super grateful to be on and spend the morning with you all. I love all the peeps in Milwaukee. I've gotten to meet a lot of you before, spend time with you. So I'm super grateful to spend this morning with you, super grateful to learn with you and share with you. And I do love seeing your faces on here because I feed off energy. I prefer to be in a room with you all because I truly feed off other people's positive energy. I don't sit still very long. So if you see me walking around or standing up, that's why. But yeah, grateful for all of you and excited to be here and pumped to spend the Friday with you guys and ladies. So yeah, we joined forces with KW about 7 years ago when we opened up the market center in Lincoln Park. Before that, my partner and our family, Weinberg Choi family, and I don't use that word lightly, our team is family to me. We had started a brokerage 16 years ago, Weinberg Choi Realty. And roughly 7 years ago, the opportunity came our way. And over the years, different companies had reached out to us to either merge up, us to run their business, them to open a launch in Chicago. And we always took the call because we always wanted to see how we could help them. Maybe there was something we could pour into them and share. But it was never really the right fit. We weren't really looking to make a change. When the opportunity for KW to essentially relaunch in downtown Chicago, at the time there was a market center by O'Hare, which is part of Chicago, but it's 25 minutes out of downtown. When the opportunity came, it was a platform for us to be able to, one, grow at a high level because we knew that we were basically running on pure talent with very little systems. More importantly, it was about being able to change the entire landscape of the Chicago real estate community and positively impact people's lives. And the more we dug into it and the more we pulled back the layers, we realized we were already essentially so in culture and so similar. We just didn't know it because we didn't know KW at the time. So that's the shortened version. If I shared it, we'd be on to 4 o'clock and then you'd probably have only heard the first month or year of the story. But yeah, super grateful. For us, it's all about collaboration and positivity and putting positive energy out into the world. And I think that in the world we're living in, right, and the things that come our way, it's hard not to get caught up in some of the wildness, chaotic, negativity. But there's so many amazing people in our industry, in our company, that when you put that positivity out there, I think it just comes back tenfold. And I think that that's what I know, because that's all I know is a culture of, a celebration and a culture of gratitude and positivity. And so I think that it's been, the transition was, although no transition's easy, it made sense on so many levels because we were essentially so much in parallel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go back to, how many people did you have on your team when you came to KW?
Our team was 7 people at the time. And at the time we had tried every model you could think of. And what we realized was, we thought, when Tommy and I started our company 16 years ago, we thought that to grow a bigger business and to help support more people in their perfect real estate experience of buying, selling, investing, or renting their home, we thought that meant that we personally had to do everything. We thought we were the best at everything, and we were wearing every hat. And what we realized is, instead of being the best and really good at everything, we were just being pretty good at a bunch of things. And had we continued on the path we were on, we were literally on the path to burnout. It got to the point that, right, we thought we had to work more and more hours. And don't get me wrong, now I wouldn't go back and change anything, because we can't go back in time. But we were on the path to burnout, right? Like, had we continued on that path, the whole E to P, we were running on pure talent with basically very little systems. And we, not only were we hitting a ceiling on what we were achieving, it got to the point that, the old saying of, like, when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Mm-hmm. We weren't willing to say no to our family, our wife, or our kids, or our family, that doesn't live in Chicago. And so we made the decision that with the systems and models that were already created, we were going to plug in, and not only, it wasn't just about impacting our family's life, it was about our Weinberg Choi family's life and how we could impact them at the highest level. So at the time we were right around 7 people when we joined forces with KW.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. So let me introduce Will Stalle is also going to be moderating this with me, and he's going to dig deeper in some of the conversations that we're going to have with Josh. And the 3 of us have been masterminding about how we're going to present this to you today. So we both have some perspective, and one of our goals today is to really dive deep into what does a really successful real estate agent do in preparation for a year, right? And we have a very particularly difficult year, one that is, we have no history of what we're going into. There's no history, right? We watch history, we can see ebbs and flows of markets, and we can see crashes and downturns, and we see them coming back. This is a little bit unusual because there's nothing forcing this issue in our economy other than coming out of COVID, which is, again, unusual and unprecedented, right? So I really wanted to bring on two people, Willie to help moderate, and Josh to bring some wisdom into how we're heading into what's a difficult year, right?
Yeah, I want to jump in just on one thing that Josh was saying. A lot of things that you just said in the last intro were amazing. I think the difference between pure talent and then leveraging systems, what was it like? As you realized that, when did you realize that? How did you realize that? Because I think that's a common thing in real estate, is we are all surrounded by such talented people, and operating on pure talent after a while is exhausting. You need leverage in order to take it to that next level. So what was it that, and I know a lot of it has to do with KW and the systems, but if you could just expand on that, like, what was it that made you guys realize, like, hey, we have so much talent, but in order for us to break through to the next level, we're going to need to leverage, we're going to need to build systems because we're going to burn out. So if you could just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so for one, I think if you just look at talent, sure, someone who's more talented than someone else with the right system, sure, they might outperform them. But there's no doubt, right? I think, when I think of like E to P, and you hear that thrown around a lot.
Could you explain what E to P is for people?
Yeah, sure. Yep. Going from entrepreneurial to purposeful, meaning running on pure talent is the E, and purposeful is having systems in place that are replicatable. And sometimes when, I share or I'm speaking about putting systems in place, and sometimes people say, what do you mean by that? It's like, okay, you have a client or a past client or a friend or a family member that makes the intro. It's like, okay, what's next? What is the next step? if I sit there and rewrite that email of the introduction email or the gratitude email every single time, it's like taking me 15 minutes to write that email because I overthink it. I'm like, am I spelling it right? Am I saying it right? Instead, it's me having a personalized, a canned email that is still personalized, and I'm making it about that situation. But instead of me taking 20 minutes and then another 20 minutes to reread it, I already know the email that works. That's the system. It's, hey, someone reaches out to us who wants to work with our team to market and sell their home. What's next? We have a system and model in place. So that is going from running on talent, entrepreneurial, to purposeful, right? With systems. And don't get me wrong, my strength is not putting systems in place. It's more of the visionary of like, hey, here's what it should look like when it's built out. And then we have people who are way better and smarter than me that are part of our family that are like, I'm going to put that in place, and here's how we're going to do it. Not because it's beyond me, or it's not good enough for me. That's not my skill set. And back to what I was saying about us wearing every hat, when we were just being pretty good at everything instead of the best at one or two things. And I think there's about 2 to 3 things that everyone on our team focuses in their role. What I realized is I look at, you hear the word talent thrown around, right? A lot. And when and every one of us on this screen and in this world are talented at something, very talented. And so I love music and sports. So I relate everything to music and sports. And when you think of talent, I think of it, you are the best person in the world at that role, and it's the best role for you in the world. And I'll give you an example, and I'll use this analogy, whether you think that he's the best ever or not. Michael Jordan was clearly the best or one of the best basketball players ever. Can we all agree on that? Light up the chat with 23 if you agree with that. Throw 23 in the chat if you agree with that. Throw it in there. All right, good. I need that energy. There we go. Michael Jordan, when he played basketball, was clearly the most talented in the world, right? When he went and switched over to baseball, was he good enough to play in the minors or maybe the majors if he pursued it? Yes. So was he the best at it in the world? No, not like basketball. So when I think of talent, it's the role that plays up to your strength, where you're the best at the world. Here's the key, though. And here's where I think people sometimes get blurred lines or don't think about it. It's not just being talented. It's also, and this is the key, being in a role that fuels your fire to wake up and come in every day, and doing it with people you love, right? Doing it with people you love and doing what you love. Because if you're just the best at it in the world, I don't care how much money you make or what awards you win, you're going to burn out. So those two have to go hand in hand, and they feed each other. It's like a puzzle. The puzzle's not completed without being the most talented in the world and doing it what you love with the people you love. What was your question? It was about
that was it. The question was about talent and leveraging systems like you just talked about.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Maureen, what do you think about that? Doing this business with the people you love, right?
Okay, well, obviously I do play business with the people I love, so I do love that. And, if you find talent and you adore working with them, you really, really enjoy working with them, you trust them, right? Part of the problem that we all have with leveraging out part of our business is trust. Are they going to do it well? Are they going to do it to my expectation? Are they going to get the job done? Are they going to cover my back when I need them to? I mean, that's real talent when they can do those things, not just do their job well, but they got my back. I know that they're going to come through. I don't have to ask twice. And I know what the results are going to look like, right? Hey, I want to go back to your E to P. That's a phrase that's thrown around KW all the time. I swear to you, it took me 2 years to really understand what E to P is. And you just summarized it. I swear, if you could just put that little video, does anybody want to know what E to P is? This is what E to P is. E to P is, we all think we're entrepreneurs. We're also independent. Real estate agents are by nature are rogue independent people, right? That it's just as the nature of a natural real estate agent. But when you really want to dial in and blow up this business, you need to find talent and you need to leverage that and give them the things you don't enjoy or you don't do well, right? And you focus on the things you do really, really well. That's success. That's purposeful, right? That's the difference between being an entrepreneur. You can go grind it out as an entrepreneur all day long and feel real good about that. Or you can be purposeful and find talent and leverage, right?
Yeah. Can I add a couple things? One is I totally agree with that. I think, a lot of us get into this business for different reasons, but a lot of people get into this business because like, okay, I can set my own schedule and I'm running my own business. That is the truth. But I think we know that when we have that mindset of, I'm going to set my own schedule. We end up not at all. We end up working every night and every weekend, and we're really not setting our schedule. And I think that the importance is of that is not only doing what we love and putting leverage and systems in place. We can't work 24 hours in a day. I don't care how we're wired. Everyone can do it for a certain amount of time. But if you're not focused and going super deep on what you love and what you're really good at, the best at, and you're trying to wear every single hat, you're going to do one of 3 or 4 things. You're either putting a lid on your business because you're going to keep hitting that ceiling because you can't bust through it because you are literally putting it all on your plate, or you're going to give on the level of service to your clients, or you're going to give on all the other things in your life that are equally or more important than business, whether that's traveling with friends or family, being around your children if you have children, being with your pets, whatever it is, going to concerts, whatever it is that each of you are passionate about. Finding a balance is a real big challenge in our business. But if you're wearing every hat, you're going to give on one or more than one of those things. We weren't willing to give on any of those things. And it took us years to figure that out. And again, I wouldn't go back and change it, but that was the key. And that was the key to I have not mastered or perfected getting out of my own way, but that was a huge thing, was getting out of my own way. And we can talk about that. But one more thing Maureen said that I wanted to talk about was trust and honesty. That is the single most important thing for anybody that I get into any relationship with, whether it's business, whether it's friends, starting a business, anything. And I share that with anybody who reaches out who's interested in joining our family, that the single most important thing is trusting each other at the highest level about anything and everything. Because I think we can all agree, and share with me if you disagree, that there's enough other, I'm going to use BS as a term, that goes on in business and in the world. If you can trust the people that you're doing business with and doing life with, about 95% of the headaches and stress you don't need to worry about. So when you have a culture of trust and honesty, it leads to something so much deeper than building a big business. Building the big business happens to be the result. That's not even why you're being honest and transparent and being able to have those conversations. And what I mean by that is when you have a connection of honesty and transparency, and it's not just about the little things of like, hey, if somebody needs a day off because they need a day off, I would much rather them say, hey, I need a day off, than saying like, I'm not feeling good. And then like, I happen to be driving by Wrigley Field and I see them like chugging a beer and cracking a beer can over their head that day. If they need a day of that, awesome, go do that. But if we can be honest about the littlest thing and every other thing in between, when it comes to huge decisions being made, or someone's reaching out to me about something that happened, I know I don't even need to second guess it. And I think that's the single most important thing. The word culture gets thrown around a lot. And I think that culture to me is more felt than it can be put into words, right? But when you have a deep, strong culture, and that's the foundation, everything else shows up. And I think that's nothing else. You could check every other box. If you don't have a strong culture, whether you're a team of 1, team of 5, team of 50, if you don't have a strong culture and you're not honest all the time with each other, it's going to be very hard to achieve anything else that you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that really is it, right? So when speaking to an individual agent, and take it back to you and Tommy, what Willie was alluding to before, how do you even begin to think of how you're going to leverage something off your plate? What do you think somebody's, what does a checklist look like? Like, what could I give up and find someone else that can do these things? Like, how do you start that process? Because I think that anybody going from 5 million to 10 million in business in a year, of definitely over 10 million, but 5 million to 10 million is when you start to scratch your head and go, there's got to be somebody that can do this better than me, this piece, or this grouping. There's got to be somebody, but most people are afraid to jump off that cliff.
Yes. Okay. So I will share in a sec what I think the simplest way is. I think for a lot of us, if we're either considering making that first hire or leveraging certain things off, I think there's a number of reasons why we don't. And I don't want to assume what anyone's reason is, but here's a lot of what I've heard and what I've felt. Either the expense, right? How am I going to compensate, like make up for that expense? And is there going to be enough for that person to do? Are they going to be able to do it better than me and understand how I want to do it? You know, what are my clients going to be okay with them being involved and it not being all me? That might be some of the reasons, and it might be different. There might be different reasons. So if there are, I mean, feel free to chime in and throw it in the chat and we can discuss it. But I think the simplest way to answer your question, Maureen, is you said it actually earlier. If you're at, 25-ish transactions a year, you're either giving on level of service, giving on your, like, literally your life, or giving on the growth of your business if you don't have someone supporting you and being in business with someone. And so the simplest way is to make a list and say, here are all the things I am not good at, right? And here are all of the things that I don't enjoy doing. And honestly, you create a role description around that for the first hire you're making. Now, sure, the model says you hire an operations or administrative teammate before you go hire a sales teammate. Reason being is if you add a sales teammate, that's more sales business and less support on the back end to be able to support more business, right? And the model shows at 25-ish, and depending on the market, 25 to 30 transactions, one hire can take you to double your business from 25 transactions to 50 to 55 transactions, right? And so I think the simplest way is think of the stuff that keeps you up at night and stresses you out. And I'm not saying that's just going to all of a sudden go away, but it's going to have someone you're going to get to have. Not only are you getting to create a better experience for your clients, think about this. You're curating and creating an opportunity for someone to build the life they want to have by them joining your family. And I think the key to that is, I talked about talent and doing what you love, right? And doing it with people you love, those two. The other two keys to that, and I share this, I won't go super deep on this, but I'm happy to another time, is one, making sure that that person is in culture with you, whether you're one person, two-person team. And that doesn't even mean, even if your first hire is leveraging transaction coordination, right? And it doesn't mean you're bringing on someone full-time for just you or your team, that you still want to be in culture and make sure they align with you, right? And culture, to me, I explained it, it's harder to put in words, it's more felt, but the way I'll share an example of culture on our team. The way people on our team make each other feel, and the way how they have impacted my life personally and professionally, with no expectations or wanting anything in return for any or all of the stuff they do for each other, because they sincerely are aligned and love each other, that's culture, right? And I could go on and on for hours about culture, but you have to be in culture. That person who you're getting into business with, whether again, it's transaction management or it's an executive concierge, they also have to be aligned with your vision. And what I mean by that is they have to understand how they fit in and what it looks big picture for you, so you can make sure that they work in parallel and they understand what their opportunity is with you, right? Because you want someone who, I guess, I don't want to say what you want. I'll share what I want. When anybody reaches out about joining our family, I'm not just talking about what we're going to accomplish over the next 1 or 2 or 5 years. I'm talking about what we're going to accomplish over the next 25 or 30 years together. Because when I get into business with someone, my intention is that we're going to be in business forever. Now, does that always happen? No. And I'm not saying that's how you should view it. I think the key, and let me take a step back. There's a million people who are wildly successful in real estate in any industry. The key is staying true to ourselves and going super deep on what we love and who we are and staying true to ourselves. So just because my vision is getting into business with someone forever, that doesn't mean that that needs to be yours. And I think, so I realized I wanted to stop myself when I said that, because although that's important to me, that doesn't mean that that's got to be your vision. But I think as long as someone is in culture, aligned with your vision, talented, and in a role that they love and are passionate about and doing with people they love, as long as those 4 boxes are checked and honesty and transparency is the foundation, now it's okay, let's go on to the conversation of what role. If you know that you're the right fit to get into business with that person, right? So again, back to your question, to simplify it, you're creating the role description based on the needs you have or wants you have to leverage off.
Okay.
I love that. The simplicity of what you're saying is so profound, but it takes doing the work. And I think just one of the things that this is all making me think of is you guys live in radical humility. You live with grace. You look inward before you go out. And I think understanding yourself, as it's always changing too, because everyone's changing, we're all changing, and having that humility to make sure that culture is the foundation so that you can encourage others to also live in that humility. Because if you don't know what they want, how can you support it, right? And you're sharing your vision right out of the gate, which is setting a precedent. And do you mind asking, do you have like a vision or a statement that you guys share with your teammates?
Yeah, we share our mission and vision, and we every single Monday we share it at we meet every single morning. Okay, we meet every single morning. Mondays are in person, and we share our mission and vision every Monday together. Tuesday through Friday, we meet virtually. I can expand on that later. Yeah, our mission is to build legacies for our team, our friends and family, while delivering and supporting their perfect real estate experience. And our vision is to be the real estate team of choice to build a career with and to buy and sell real estate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I love that. So now, I mean, I look at this and I think you're very, very intentional, right? Every move you make, I say this all the time. Every word that comes out of your mouth is with intention. There's no thinking off the cuff, and it just naturally you think about things before you speak, and then you now are on a roll. And I love the way this conversation is going, because I think I take for granted what it means to build a team and to leverage out and to fill your weaknesses and create the culture. But I know when I was back doing 5 million and 8 million and 10 million and even 35 million, I was like, how do I do that again? It took me coming to KW for people to start talking about E to P and helping me understand, yeah, you're running like a chicken with your head cut off if you're doing 25 transactions in a year without any help. And that's where I was at, right? And I think that it's really critical for those that are trying to figure out how to go from A to B in any level, whether they're a solo agent who's doing 20 transactions and thinking, you know, I've got young kids at home and I really do need help, to the agent that's running a small team. You know, I look at Steve on the screen, who's working with his wife, Lindsay, and they're running a small team and they're trying to grow they're leveraging out and growing a couple of different aspects of their team. And it's fascinating. It's like, how do you figure out when your next move is to turn a corner and grow in this direction? Like Steve's growing a staging business and a transaction management business. Like, when do you figure that point out in your career? And I think that just staying true to yourself and being honest with yourself and coming with humility, as Willie says, and being able to look inside and go, can I really do this? And can my family, I'm sacrificing my family time.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah, I think the key is, and I think when I think back, I'll share how my mindset was when we were making our first or second or third addition to our family compared to now. See, I think that for me, okay, so my partner, Tommy, he's my best friend. Before we ever got into business together, we said we were friends first. And for those of you that know him, he's one of the most special people in the world. And I'm honored and beyond grateful and blessed to be in business with him and for him to be my business partner and for me to be his partner and everyone on our team to be together. There's so many things he's better at than I am. What I'll share is, and this will bring it back home to your question about when we decide to make our first hire. If we did everything that Tommy ever thought of, we would have spent $5 billion. And if we would have gone with my mindset initially of like, hey, you know, we wouldn't have done any of it because I would have thought like, oh, that's an expense. Okay. So for any of you that have that mindset of like, oh, it's an expense, and how am I going to make up for that, the amount to cover that salary or that compensation, I've completely shifted my mindset. And I've shifted my mindset because I realized, I remember when we made our first hire, I'm like, honestly, what are they going to do? Like, is there enough? Like, how are we going to, like, what are they going to fill their day with, right? And what I realized, and where I've shifted my mindset, is I look at it more as we are investing. Instead of an expense, we're investing in this human being. We're investing in all of the other people that are part of our family. And it's an investment for our business. And so instead of the mindset of looking, I'm going to use a number and I'm going to use a round number for purpose of this, instead of saying, hey, it's $48,000 a year, it's like, no, it's a $4,000 investment per month, right? And I think when you're thinking about how to make that decision and can I do it, you don't want to have 1 or 2 months of that saved up, because you want to make sure you're giving that opportunity. You're not going to know in 2 months that they've done everything you hope they could accomplish or that you're going to see the result. But if you know, you're like, I can compensate this person for the long haul And it doesn't mean you have to have 5 years of reserves in there for their salary either. But I think it's having an honest conversation. If you're making your first hire, I think that's okay to get when you're sharing your vision of this with this person saying, this is new to me. And I want to build something really special and together impact a lot of lives or whatever your vision is for it, right? And if they're not aligned with it, that's okay. But then they may not be the right person to get into business with. How that shifted when you say now how we're looking at it. So again, I went from thinking of the expense mindset to investment. And so again, we would have spent $5 billion if we went with everything Tommy had ideas on. Yet his ideas are so amazing and outside the box that now we are able to think, and it's like there's so many things he's better at that we're complementing each other. Now you throw in everyone else that's part of our family, and it's for years now, and it's no longer 2 people, it's 17 people who I like geek out on numbers and puzzle and all that. And I've said a puzzle reference before. Think about a puzzle, if any of you have done it. You know, when you're doing a puzzle, and right now, if your team is 1, you still have other people that are part of your team, by the way. You have your clients, you have your vendor partners, you have your mentors, you have other people you collaborate with in the market center and outside of it, you have your leadership team, all part of your team, regardless of whether you're 1 or more. But back to the puzzle is, think about it. If you're a 1-person puzzle and that puzzle piece is missing, you know, when you're doing a puzzle and you're coming down to like the last 20 pieces and you think you're missing a piece and you're like super stressed out. And like, if you did lose that piece, you'd be like, it's not complete. Every single person in our family is equally as important. Their role is equally as important. And everyone has each other's back, yet we complete the puzzle so we don't feel like we're missing that piece. And why I'm saying that is that's the most stressful feeling. I just got back from Jamaica on Wednesday night. We were doing a puzzle. There were like multiple times when I was like, dude, we're missing that piece. And we found it and we felt so good. Where my mindset shifted now is we have built out and we continue to build out what our organization and family is going to look like 5 years out. And so what that means is where the need is, and that evolves. So I'm not saying we put this plan in place and then we don't veer from it. Every single time we look at it, it looks different than what we expected, but at least it's putting a plan in place for where the opportunity is to grow and impact lives. So where the need is. And the reason I didn't want to start with that is because all of us are in a different place, whether we're 1 person on our team or multiple people. But I think it's just knowing that you have a team regardless, and it's getting clarity on who your team is and finding who you want to be part of your team, regardless of whether you ever want to grow a team or not. And just because someone else is doing that doesn't mean that that's right for you. And I think that's the biggest thing I could ever share is like, do what's right for you. We call it when we have a buyer consultation or a marketing consultation with a client, we let them know when we sit down with them, we say, our job is to deliver your perfect real estate experience. With that said, what does that look like for you? When we're having going through the career visioning process, and I say, my job is to support you in your perfect career. With that said, what does that look like for you? Why is that important? Because we think from our perspective, I already made that mistake. I already did this on this call where I was saying, oh, here's what we should do and how you should build it out. No, it's understanding what their perfect experience is, right? It's like the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. The golden rule is treating others how you want to be treated, right? You with me? Platinum rule is treating others how they want to be treated. And if you can understand what their perfect real estate experience is or their perfect career is, and you can ask questions and really understand it, how much easier is it to support them in their perfect experience or career?
Okay. I'm writing this down because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got an interview with a potential leadership candidate this weekend. And I love that question of what does the perfect career look like to you? Not what do you want out of life, but what does the perfect career look like to you? That's going to feed you and feed your soul.
Yeah, because the purpose of getting into business isn't just what they're going to do for you. It isn't, are they going to benefit you? It's can I support them in everything they ever dreamed of and more? And same thing with the client. And if the answer is no, then it's not a win-win. If we truly can't support them in that, and it's not us doing it for them, it's doing it together with them, right? But if we can't do that, just like a client, if they have what you feel is unreasonable expectations and you want to make the business decision not to work with them, that's okay. But wouldn't you rather know that up front?
Yeah.
Oh man,
go ahead, Will.
I was jumping on that point. I love that question, and the ability to start with that question gives you so much ammo. Whether it's a listing appointment, a buyer consultation, someone working on your team, you start with that question. we all know that every listing appointment is never going to be the same. The clients are never the same. You never know where they're at. You got to meet them where they're at. And that allows you so much freedom to then put together the perfect game plan for that person. And that translates to everything. I love that.
Yeah. And you understand where their pain points are. That usually comes out in that question. What are their pain points? We had a terrible real estate agent. We tried to do a FSBO, all of these things. You find out what their pain points are that you wouldn't normally know unless you ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's transition to last year was a bang up year. The last 2 years since COVID, we've had pretty amazing years, right? And now we've all felt in the fall of last year that 2023 was going to look differently.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I loved our conversation. We all met yesterday. Will and Josh and I met yesterday, and we had this robust conversation around and turned what people have been saying a concern of going into 2023. The market's going to be tight. The market's going to be this, be that. Strap in. It's going to be difficult. Josh turned around. He's like, "Are you kidding me? We have an opportunity." So let's expand on that. Well, last fall, when you realized what we were going into in 2023 and what was causing the problem was most of it, everyone thinks is interest rate, but the majority of the problem is our low inventory. What are your thoughts around that? What were you thinking last fall? Because we all know, if you've been in this business long enough, you all know that your business for the year is wrapped up in the beginning of November, mid-November. You're thinking about the next year, you're working into the next year by then, and you're closing out your transactions for 2022, but you're really moving into 2023 and thinking about what next year is going to look like. So where was your head at in November when you realized what 2023 was going to bring?
I'll share a question that Gary shared at the mastermind in November. And I agree that there's not one variable. It's not just inventory. It's not just interest rates, but he asked the question, this was in November, and said, "Hey, if interest rates were the same as they were earlier in the year, right? How much more business would we have done?" And the answer was like, everyone in the room was like, a lot. So there's no doubt that interest rates have an impact on it, right? There's no doubt. There's a lot of variables. There's no doubt there's a lack of inventory. And there's no doubt that if rates were at 3, there probably would have been a lot more people that hit the pause button in June, July, August, September that wouldn't have hit the pause button and would be in the market now or would have bought. NAR is predicting that there will be 4.1 million homes sold in 2023. And we might say to ourselves, okay, like in the US, like how does that impact our market? For one, what the media puts out can be put out however they want the numbers to be skewed. So if people are reading that the number of homes are sold down or they're significantly down, it does impact us, even if it's not as micro to our market. With that said, there's no doubt that if there's less homes on the market and even if there's the same amount of buyers, there will be less homes sold this year. So there will be less transactions to be had. With that said, the pie is going to be smaller this year. Likely, more likely than not, right? I can't say for certain, but more likely than not. With that said, there is a massive opportunity for all of us on this screen and all the people that are in our worlds to grow our piece of the pie so big. And when we do come out on the other side of this, and when that question was asked to Gary too, by the way, of, hey, how long is this? He said, I see this as a 3-year cycle and we're ready. This in 2022 was year 1. So his prediction was 18 to 24 more months. Who knows for certain? When we come out on the other side of this, not only are we going to have grown our piece of the pie, we're going to come out stronger than ever and never give it back and grow even more. So there is a massive opportunity for us over the next 12 months, 18 months, however long it is, to really not only build for the next year. We talked a lot about, it's not just about having an amazing year, it's having an amazing career. If you want to set yourself up for an amazing career, you have a massive, massive, massive opportunity right now, today, to do it for not only what the business is going to be, you're booking business for years and years from now, today. And I know we talk about, oh, it shows up 90 days later, and it does. But if you can build up your business now for 24 months from now, where you're going to be exploding and you're going to have no decision other than to bring someone into your world, if you are an individual or are part of a team, right? And I think that the key is this. If we do the same activities this year as we did the last 3 years, we're going to see different results, and the results aren't going to be as strong as the last 3 years. We have to commit to whatever activity it is that each of you do at a high level, right? Meaning, I'm not going to say go on more face-to-faces or hold more events if that's not what you do. And I'm not going to say go knock more doors if that's not what you do. Whatever it is that you do and love to do and you're really good at, we're going to need to get belly to belly and face to face and get into relationships with more people in this market than the past 3 years. That can sound overwhelming and scary. That's a massive opportunity, because think about it. If you talk to 100 people last year, and this year you need to talk to 300 people that have the same results, think about what those 300 people are going to do exponentially 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road if you have that relationship and nurture it right. Now, it's not just about withdrawals. I'll share something that Tommy talks about. He speaks all across the country. He's very involved with NAR. He was the past president of Chicago Association of Realtors. Talks about what are the three. I know we don't use ATM machines very much, but with Venmo and Zelle and all that, but stick with me with an ATM for a second. This is Tommy. I'm gonna give him props because this is what he talks about. What are the 3 things that you can do at an ATM? Someone come off mute and share. What are the 3 things?
Withdraw money. You can deposit checks. Oh, I'm missing the third.
Check your
Check
balance.
your balance.
There you go. You can make a deposit, you can withdraw money, or you can check your balance. Okay. If you are calling people, and think about an ATM machine, and then think about with your people and your raving fans. If all you're ever doing is taking withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal from the ATM, when you go to check your balance, it's going to show up as what? NSF, non-sufficient funds, right? But think about it. When you're making deposit after deposit after deposit to the people in your world, you're not doing it because you expect or want anything in return. That isn't the purpose of it. It's not like, okay, I'm going to make a deposit so I can withdraw. The result of that is that's just going to show up, right? It's kind of like what I was talking about before. If you love what you're doing and who you're doing it with and you're passionate about it, the money is the result. That's not the why. Don't get me wrong. I am motivated by financial wealth, but that's not why I do it. That is the result of what we do. So similar to this, when you're calling, think about it. Think about 3 years ago, like today, or 3 years ago, almost today. That was one of the wildest times probably of most of our lives for like at least a couple months and probably for like a couple of years. And everybody, no matter what, and no matter what you think of with someone, everybody needs and wants to be loved, right? And everybody wants to be loved on. So if you can make deposits in people's world, right, that's where it goes next level. Because one thing about it, you're doing it because you want to. It's a win-win. You're doing it because you're impacting someone's life, and it feels good to make a deposit into someone's life. How can you make a deposit? You may be having a conversation with the client. You might not. Some people are like, I don't know what to say. I don't like calling people because I don't know what to say. I don't want to say, who do you know looking to buy, sell, or invest? Honestly, I probably out of 100 calls, maybe not even, might not even say that once. And I'm not saying it's that you shouldn't. I'm just saying that's not how I do it. I'm calling to see how they are. I love the Ford model, right? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And I also love social media. I don't post that much. Tommy posts a ton. A lot of people on our team post a ton. I like, you know, when you were taking a test back in the day, whether it was for real estate or high school or whatever it was, and what I call using the test to take the test, meaning there's an answer in one of the questions to one of the other questions. I love social media because I love seeing what's going on in the people I love's world. And then I love talking to them about that, right? So when you can make a deposit and you're saying, how's business or how's work? And if they say, honestly, like, I'm not enjoying it, I'm stressed, I'm looking for an opportunity, think about it. Perfect opportunity to make a deposit. You connect them with someone else who's looking, and now you're creating a win-win for everyone involved. That's one way to make a deposit. Maybe it's, hey, you know someone's down about something, and you just sending them a handwritten note. Not because you want anything in return. It's not even about spending money on that person. You can do that. It's about letting them know that you love and care about them. When you make those deposits, you hear the word lead gen thrown around a lot, and it's like super overwhelming. You're like, I don't want to lead gen today. I like thinking of it as love gen. I love loving on the people that we love and that love us, and understanding how we can positively impact their life, right? So if you can love on more people and make more deposits, when there is time to make that withdrawal, you've earned it. You've earned the right to, right? But if you're just always making withdrawal after withdrawal, eventually it's going to show up, your relationship is going to show up as NSF.
Wow. So good. You are so good at this. Josh has called me randomly, and like just randomly out of the blue, hey man, how's it going? We're not even in the same market, right? He cares about people so deeply, and that is something that is an energy that is hard to find in this world. So I think if we could emulate you, my man, that would be amazing, and the business will show up.
Yeah, no joke. Josh calls me on my birthday. He calls my husband on his birthday. Rick Stalle will go, "Oh, I just got a call from Josh or a text from Josh." It's crazy. Like that love gen piece that you're talking about. You've got something there that speaks to me. That's exactly how I think of it. I never, ever call anybody to have, unless they have a need. Do I ever talk about real estate? They always talk about real estate and they want to talk about real estate, but it's usually another reason. I follow a lot of people on social media, just like you do. I don't post much, but I comment on it. And when I see them, I comment about what I see, right? That's the deposit. And I, like you, get energy from that. If there's nothing fake about that, I absolutely thrive on making deposits and bringing joy to someone else's life. That to me is bringing energy. Some people saps their own energy, right? You're either get energy from people or people sap your energy, right? Josh is I get energy from people. So if I can make deposits in people's lives, creating that, and it turns into business because they trust him, they love him, and they want to support his business. Right?
I have a follow-up question that I would love to ask in regards to more specifics, Josh, if that's okay. Tell me something that your team is doing this year that you've never done before. As we're looking into this pie changing and, increasing our activities in order to get the results down the road. What's something that you guys changed or doing differently that we could, touch on?
I'll share that. And I do want to make sure to share this too. The key isn't pulling a 180 from what worked for us in the previous years, right? It doesn't mean we have to like lift up the hood of our car and just rip all the systems out if we have systems, or whatever we've done, even if we don't have systems, whatever we've done that we enjoy and that has led to success for each of us, right? So it's still staying true to what we do, what we love to do, and the basics, and building on that. And the one thing that we're doing this year that is different from what we've done intentionally in the past is, I'll share in a minute what we've done what we're doing that's normal. What we've done different, what we're doing different is, we know that there is a massive value prop to other people in our industry who are highly productive to join our family. And we are evolving in a way by curating and creating a role and being intentional and not changing our standards on who we want to get into business with. There's a lot of people who never thought or realized or thought they didn't want to be part of a team that really do. And there's so much value. And so that's one thing we've evolved and we're changing this year, is getting more intentional and getting into business with people joining our family who are highly productive, where we can have a massive impact on their life and their business. Whereas we had thrown that idea around in the past, but we weren't as intentional about it. Back when you're looking now, that is something that we're doing. When you look at what we're doing the same, Maureen talked about how I call her on her birthday. Every single morning, my lead gen starts and sometimes ends with me looking at whoever's birthday it is that day and calling them. Now, I'm not calling someone I'm Facebook friends with that literally I don't even know who they are, but I'm calling anyone that I have a meaningful relationship with. Who on here enjoys getting a phone call from someone that they love or care about on their birthday? I think we all do. Who on here has gotten like a Facebook message from some of our closest friends or family members, maybe a text, but that says like HBD with balloons on it? It's like a lot of us, right? But it's like, think about the call. It's so simple. Even if they don't answer the phone and I leave them a message, they know I'm thinking about them. Do you know how many people have said like, wow, you're like one of the only people that called, like you called before my sibling or my parents called me, right? That's super impactful. They know. And I'm not calling them saying, happy birthday, and hey, do you know anyone looking to move? And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. So please don't mistake what I was saying before as me not asking who they know as that you shouldn't do that. Do what works for you. I'm calling to let them know I'm thinking about them. I literally will say, hey, Willie, it's Josh. Wanted to send some birthday love your way, man. I'm super grateful for our friendship. I hope you have the most amazing week celebrating, and cheers to many, many more healthy and happy birthdays to come. If they answer, we may lead to a deeper conversation, but that's not the purpose of my call. It's the simplest way, right? You literally can go on Facebook if you're on Facebook and see whose birthday it is that day. We have a system and a culture of celebration. So we're celebrating people's birthdays. We handwrite a birthday card and mail it to everyone that that we have their birthday in command, right? We're calling on their birthday. So we are staying back to the basics of what worked for us, and our foundation is relationships. So we're not just stripping that out and saying, okay, the market's different this year, so we're going to shift our entire business. We just know we need to parlay it and compound that with other things to impact more lives and to continue to grow.
Mhm. And what does that look like? What's one thing you can say, gosh, we've never done before that we're actually going to activate this year? Can you think what that?
Well, getting intentional with getting into business with highly productive agents that have never been part, that maybe didn't know they ever wanted to be a part of a team. As far as what other things we're doing, I'd have that's really where the focus for that's newer. I mean, we're staying true to us with events. Here's one thing we're doing. For a while, we were tracking how many calls, contacts, touches we made and consults. So buyer marketing consultations. We've evolved that because of we empower everyone on our team with, they have an idea to share, because by no means do any of the leadership on our team know everything. One thing we've decided is we are going to focus on getting back to focusing on face-to-faces. So we're tracking face-to-faces, not just so I can say, did you do your 10 face-to-faces this week? That's not the purpose of it. It's so we can track and know, okay, in January, we did X amount of face-to-face. Our goal is 2,400 face-to-faces this year. That face-to-faces, seasonality in our business is a real thing, right? So our number of consultations are going to look different from March in November. They just are, no matter what, even if we try to take it out of it, in Chicago at least. Face-to-faces don't need to be seasonal, right? Like if our goal is to support 205 amazing clients this year and buying and selling their home, if we divide that by 12, that may not be setting us up for success just because we know our history of the months that are heavier. But we can divide 2,400 by 12 and say, we need to get face-to-face with 200 people. So what we're doing different is getting intentional, setting, that's part of our 135, because we know that the last couple of years, we haven't been face-to-face with as many people. And we know that it's game over once we get in front of people because we care so much in our relationships. And I think we could all agree that when me being on the screen with you is not the same as me being in a room with you. And if we were all face-to-face in a room together, I would be feeding off your energy at such a high level, and hopefully you would be on mine, but it's different when you're face-to-face. So that's one thing we're getting really intentional on, not only doing, but also tracking.
Okay, that to me, that's a big aha. Tracking your face-to-faces, right? We're people. Why wouldn't we enjoy and want to be out face-to-face, right? So you've got to figure out, I suppose you guys, everybody, it's going to look different for every person on your team, right? Everybody in the screen's going to have a different, what that's going to look like for them. For me, it's getting out and playing a little bit more sports, a little bit more volunteer time, a little bit things that bring me energy, but also put me in front of other people. That's how I built my business. So whatever it is for you, go and 10x it and get out there. Love that. Okay.
If you don't, for new agents, I always tell people, if you don't know what that is, just ask yourself, what am I passionate about? And get involved in that. There's so many opportunities and things that you already are in alignment with, that all you got to do is show up, be on the board, volunteer, put yourself out there, because the way you show up out there is the same way you're going to show up in business, at home, in life. And that is, if you're a highly successful real estate agent, people will want to work with you because the energy you're putting in. So that's a simple way to do it.
Yeah. As we wrap up, I want to point something out to people too. I think, that phrase, a secret agent, people don't understand what that means. It's when you're out in public, do people know what you do? Do you always use your KW email so people know what you do? Or will you always use a branded email in your personal life so people understand what you do? Do you always carry something branded? And I look at Josh's vest there. He wears a vest. He wears something that is branded to his team almost every day, don't you think? Every day.
Well, I don't wear this in the summer, but yeah, I do. But we only get a few months of that.
Maybe just that, no shirt underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not being a secret agent. When you're out there, what it means to be purposeful, when you're out there getting belly to belly, face to face with people, let them know what you do without telling them what you do, right? How do you let people know what you do without telling them what you do?
I think that's a challenge, right? When people are either getting into the business and they're like, okay, how am I going to let everyone know? Or have been in the business, how am I going to remind? I think a very easy, simple, non-sales feeling way is when you're doing the Ford model and you're asking how business is, I think the most likely after they share, they're going to say, and how's business for you? And in my mind, that's the perfect opportunity where they're asking you to share with them, right? And so they're asking you, that's a perfect opportunity to say, hey, this has been an amazing year so far. Or, hey, my goal for this year is to support X amount of clients. It's a perfect way. Now, that's what works for me because my style isn't salesy, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I never want to come off that way because I care so much about the relationships. That doesn't mean that that's not your style. So whatever your style is, applied towards that. But that's such an easy way when you say, how's your family? They're going to say, well, how's your family? Or, right? Did you travel over the holidays? Well, did you? Right? Or, right? So they're going to ask you how business is. That's your opportunity to share. And it doesn't matter what your goal is or what you've accomplished before, even if this is your first transaction that you're going to do. And I don't even like the word transaction. First client that you're going to support. You can share with them, like, my goal this year is to, and it's going to lead to them thinking of you. You want mind share, right? You want them to think of you for everything, not just real estate. And that's why it's so important to love and make so many deposits and love gen on so many people, is because if they think about you for, hey, I have a friend coming into town for dinner, I'm going to call Peter and ask Peter where I should take them to dinner. Or, hey, this new shoe is dropping, I'm going to call Willie and ask him where to get it. When it comes to real estate, they're going to call you when it comes to real estate because they're thinking of you for everything. So you need that mind share. You need them to be thinking of you, and they need to know what you do professionally.
Yeah. You know what? I just had something happen last night that just made me go, wow. I had one of my most favorite clients in my past, probably 10 years ago, sold them a house on the east side. Husband got cancer. I check in with her every couple months, check in with him, how he was doing. He ultimately passed away. I showed up at their house with dinner shortly thereafter. I invited her to a concert. I invited her to the Boys and Girls Club event. She brought a friend. It was great. And I just wanted to be kind of a, support, as we all would be, to a friend. And she's a relatively new friend. I got an email last night from her daughter in Florida. Hey, one of my best friends is moving to Milwaukee. I sent her your contact information. Can you take care of him? I went, you know what? I did what I love, right? So you do what you love, and it produces business. Actually, my whole team knows that. Most everybody I work with knows that. If I'm passionate about something and I go after it, my business grows just naturally, right? It's the energy you put into everything else in your life that shows up in a positive way in your business.
I think that's my biggest takeaway from today is love gen. Just the whole love thing, just loving on people. Josh, I love you. Mom, love you too.
And
this has been amazing, Josh. You have dropped so many nuggets, and I will definitely be rewatching this. And I think, we'd love to have you in person too, because I agree. It is an amazing impact, just what you're doing on this screen. And I can only imagine what it would be like in person. Honestly.
Yeah, thanks. I'm super grateful for you all. And as cliche as it might sound with me saying everybody wants to be loved on, I think sometimes we look at certain people, whether it's clients or family members or friends, and you think they've got it all figured out, or they have the successful business, or everything's great in their world. Everybody wants to be loved on, and everybody needs and wants to feel loved. And I think that that's so key. And it's hard because we're thinking about business, and we're thinking about all these things, but Maureen, that was a perfect example. You were just doing what you wanted to do to pour into someone because you're passionate about that. Again, the result of that is they love you back and are going to think of you, but that's not why you did it. And I think so important. So yeah, I love spending the morning with you all. I would stay on here all day with you all. Even though we are looking at a screen, I am feeding off your energy big time. And I think, what I've realized, I think that I've had a lot of ahas over the years, and one main one is perspective. I think especially in the last 7 years, right? We all are looking at it from our perspective, either how we were raised, or our family, or the environment we are in. And I think that's important when you're talking with someone to understand, it's important to take a step back and look at it from everyone's perspective, because again, our perspective is what we feel is right. I think the other big aha, and I've had this week a couple times with different situations for our team, and this morning on our gratitude, every morning we do a huddle and we start our day off with gratitude. We have a culture of gratitude, and we share who and what we're grateful for. And at the end of our huddle today, I had one of our teammates, Kennedy, close it out with something inspirational. And she had shared something she saw, on LinkedIn, and it was like a graphic, and it was talking about like how we learn. And there was one that was like from like history, two was from experience, and it showed like how much more of an impact that had. And then the third one was like mistakes we've made or failures we've had and how we've learned from it. And I think that was such interesting time, because this week, one of our teammates who just absolutely crushes it, she's impacted everyone on our team's life at a very high level. We were talking about what she felt was like a mistake made with the client and whatnot. And I think it's important that we learn that, like, if we're not making mistakes, we're probably not thinking big enough, or we're not recognizing when we make them. So every one of us are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And I think it's important that we learn from them and grow from them. And I think that it's like, mistakes are normal. Mistakes are going to happen. And as much as it might eat us up inside, we really are growing and learning from it. So there's a million things that I've learned, and I keep learning, and I stay in the learning zone, and I am making mistakes. And I share that with everyone on our team and anybody who wants to join our family. Like, I'm telling you right now, there will be mistakes made, and I will have to explain it. But how I ask you to hold me accountable is by letting me know when I've made that mistake, right? And I think when you have that form of communication, it's key.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Appreciate you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Josh,
everyone for your
so much.
time. Josh, Will,
Amazing.
thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Have a
you're
great
awesome.
day.
Can't wait
All
to
right.
see you all soon.
Let's go
Thanks,
crush it.
Josh.
Let's go get it.
Hey, Josh, you still there?
Yeah. What's up, Peter?
You know, that birthday thing is so cool. Kim and I sing to people, sing happy birthday. So if anybody wants to be sung happy birthday to, shoot me your number and your birthday, and I'll take care of it for you.
I love it. You have my phone number.
I don't think I do.
Oh, you don't? I thought you did. Well, I'll throw it in the chat right now.
Josh's birthday is April 20th.
Yes.
Mine's
it is.
April 21st. We can be birthday buddies.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I just threw it in the chat. That's awesome. It feels good to do it, right?
Oh, it feels good, and people just love it. They always smile. You can hear them laughing with joy.
That's awesome. I love that you do that. I sing to some people, but I don't think anyone really wants to hear me sing, so I kind of spare them with that.
Well, I always tell people, you know, if it's a voicemail, I say, you should have picked up, man. Now you got to listen to this over and
Right.
over and over.
Now it's stuck in your voicemail. Right. Now you got that's awesome. Good. I'm so glad you're doing that.
Well, thanks for pouring into us. That was some great ideas. I love gen. Lead gen is a challenge. Love gen is a pleasure.
It's not a duty, right?
Right.
It's part of what you want to do. Exactly. So
Right. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I love getting to see you. I mean, I'd rather see you in person, but I love seeing you through the screen. Hopefully I'll get to see you soon.
Hope to do that soon, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
All right, everyone. See you later. Have an awesome day.
Bye.
Go get it. Go crush it.